This is the story of Labyrinth. You can read along with me in your book. You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear the chimes ring like this. Let's begin now.
Give me the child.
The words were spoken by a young woman with flashing eyes and flowing hair. She was memorizing lines from a play called The Labyrinth.
I have fought my way here to the castle beyond Goblin City, for my will is as strong as yours. You have no...
She looked down at the play and read the final words.
You have no power over me.
Suddenly, a clock chimed.
Oh, no!
Jarred out of her fantasy, the young woman hurried off toward a house that seemed very plain indeed. Her stepmother was waiting.
Sarah, you're late. Your father and I don't ask you to babysit very often.
You ask me every weekend. What about my plans?
Sarah turned on her heel and ran upstairs to her room. She heard the front door close as her parents left for the evening. Sarah looked despairingly at a photo of her real mother.
Oh, why did you have to leave?
Nearby was a poster of a recent play showing her mother in the arms of a handsome young actor. Just then, the baby cried, and Sarah hurried into the nursery.
Toby, be quiet. Hush, and I'll tell you a story.
She began a tale that was a little bit like the play she was reading, and a little bit like her own life.
Once upon a time, there was a beautiful girl with a spoiled baby brother. The Goblin King told her, "Say the right words, and I will take the baby to Goblin City, and you'll be free." So she said the words, "I wish the goblins would come and take you away right now."
When Sarah looked, the crib was empty. Suddenly, Sarah found herself standing on a hillside. A man stood next to her.
I'm Jareth, the Goblin King. I've taken your brother to the castle beyond the Goblin City.
Bring him back, please.
A shadow passed over Jareth's face.
It's not that easy. You have 13 hours to solve the labyrinth before your brother becomes one of us forever.
He swirled his cloak and was gone. Sarah found herself on a hillside. In front of it was a maze of walls and hedges. A castle stood beyond. Sarah gasped.
The labyrinth.
She hurried forward and came upon an odd little person moving about the base of the wall.
Excuse me, but do you know where the door to the labyrinth is?
My name is Hoggle, and the door is right behind you.
He pointed, and a huge gate appeared in the wall.
But things here are not what they seem. Once you're in, you may never get out again.
Inside, Sarah ran down countless corridors, then came upon 2 doors.
Oh, which one should I choose?
She opened one and fell down a shaft, where hundreds of hands grew from the walls. One stopped her fall, and she called out,
Help! Help me!
We are helping. We're the helping hands. Which way would you like to go? Up or down?
I guess I'll go down.
Sarah was passed from hand to hand and dropped into a small cell. The door clicked shut behind her. A familiar figure sat nearby.
Hoggle, how did you get here?
I knew the little lady would have trouble, so I came to help.
He led her out of the cell and down another corridor. Jareth stepped out of the shadows.
Hoggle, if I thought you were helping this girl, I'd suspend you head first in the bog of eternal stench. And you, Sarah, how do you like the labyrinth?
It's a piece of cake.
Jareth laughed.
Let's see how you like this little slice.
Jareth vanished, and a wall of spinning knives bore down on them. Desperate, Sarah noticed a metal plate and pushed on it. At the very last minute, they tumbled through. They climbed up a rickety ladder into a hedge maze, where they met a bearded man with a hat shaped like a bird.
Please, sir, can you tell my friend and me how to reach the castle?
Young woman, the way forward is sometimes the way back.
What does he mean, Hoggle?
Things are not always as they seem.
As they continued through the maze, Hoggle turned to Sarah.
Why did you call me your friend?
Because you're the only friend I've got in this place.
As she spoke, there was a blood-curdling roar. Hoggle turned to her.
Hoggle ain't no one's friend. He looks after himself.
He raced off. Left alone, Sarah peered through the hedge and saw a huge monster hanging upside down from a tree. He bellowed with rage as 4 goblins poked at him with sticks. Sarah threw rocks at the goblins.
You little beasts!
They disappeared into the maze. Walking forward, she tugged at the knot holding the monster, and he fell to the ground.
My name is Sarah. Those goblins were mean to you, weren't they?
The creature nodded.
Name Ludo, Sarah, friend.
Followed by her new friend, Sarah went through a door into a dark forest. Suddenly, Ludo roared and disappeared into the ground. Sarah whirled around.
Ludo, where are you? What's going on?
Just then, a group of wild-eyed creatures leaped out of the darkness. Sarah screamed. Not far away, Hoggle heard the scream.
I'm coming!
But when he turned, Jareth stood in his path.
After my warning, you're still helping the girl?
The Goblin King handed him a ripe, round peach.
Give this to her, Hoggle. It will help her forget. Oh, and Hoggle, if she ever kisses you, I'll turn you into a prince.
You will?
Hoggle looked hopeful, but Jareth just laughed.
Yes, Prince of the Land of Stench.
Sarah, meanwhile, was surrounded. She shrank back, then tried to run. The wild-eyed creatures chased her, yelling, until she was stopped by a high wall. A rope fell down from above.
Hoggle, it's you!
She grabbed the rope and was whisked up out of their reach. On top of the wall, she gave Hoggle a big hug.
You came back. You really are a friend.
Before he could stop her, she leaned over and kissed him. At that moment, they fell through a hole in the ground and slid down a long chute. They shot out the other end, and Hoggle tumbled over a narrow ledge. Sarah grabbed his hand. Hoggle was left dangling high above a vast bubbling mire. Sarah gasped.
That smell! Hoggle, what is it?
The bog of eternal stench!
Suddenly, the ledge gave way, and both of them went plummeting toward the bog. They landed on Ludo, who was standing next to the bog. Hoggle screamed, but Sarah was delighted.
Hoggle, he's a friend.
They saw a bridge across the bog and hurried over to it. They were met by a small, fierce warrior.
I am Sir Didymus, and without my permission, no one may cross.
Sarah stepped forward.
If you've sworn that no one may cross without your permission, then may we have your permission?
There was a stunned silence.
My goodness. Why, yes.
They finally got across. Hoggle hesitated, then gave Jareth's peach to Sarah.
Hoggle, this tastes strange. I feel dizzy.
Before she knew it, Sarah was in a ballroom set in a bubble, dancing in Jareth's arms. He leaned down to kiss her, but she pushed him away and ran through the crowd. Seeing no escape, she threw a chair through the bubble. Everything crumbled, and Sarah fainted. When Sarah opened her eyes, she was lying in a pile of rubbish. The pile stirred, revealing itself to be an old woman covered with junk.
What do you think you're doing, young lady?
I was searching for something very important, but I can't remember what it was.
The woman cackled, handing Sarah her teddy bear.
You came to the right place, dearie.
The junk woman pointed out items of every shape and size, then took Sarah into a nearby tent. To Sarah's amazement, inside it was her own bedroom. She looked through her toys, clothes, makeup kit, and finally the playbook. She opened it and read aloud.
Give me the child.
Sarah sat up straight.
That's what I was searching for. I've got to find Toby.
The room fell apart, and Sarah found herself looking up at Ludo and Sir Didymus.
Fair maid, at last you're with us again. We're at the gates of the Goblin City, just beneath the castle.
They sneaked through the gates and were immediately attacked by a great big suit of armor. Sarah saw a small figure leap onto his shoulders.
Hoggle, you're back! Be careful!
As Hoggle hit the monster, its head swung open. All that was inside was a tiny goblin at the controls. Hoggle chased him away and sent the metal beast crashing off. The four friends fought their way through a goblin army to enter the castle, where Sarah turned to the others.
Thank you, all of you, but I have to face Jareth alone.
She entered a room of strange angles and staircases. Jareth was inside waiting.
Where's Toby?
Then she saw him. He was sitting on the ledge of a high window. She leaped for him and felt herself falling. When Sarah landed, she was in another place, still facing Jareth. Familiar words came to her lips.
Give me the child. I have fought my way here to the castle beyond Goblin City, for my will is as strong as yours.
Let me rule you, Sarah. You can have everything you want.
Sarah struggled with her line.
You have no power over me.
Sarah, no!
Jareth began to writhe and shrink until there was nothing left but an empty cape. Without quite knowing how, Sarah was back in her house. She ran up the stairs.
Toby! Toby!
She burst into the nursery, and there was her baby brother. She picked him up and kissed him. Sarah went to her room and put away her music box and other toys. It was time to grow up. Sarah heard the front door open, and then her father's voice.
Sarah, are you home?
Yes! Yes, I'm home.
Sarah closed her dresser drawer. When she looked up in the mirror, there was Ludo.
Goodbye, Sarah.
Sir Didymus joined them.
Goodbye, sweet lady.
Behind him, Hoggle appeared.
Should you ever need us?
Sarah nodded.
Hoggle, I do need you.
Suddenly, the room was filled with her friends. Sarah knew they would always be there when she needed them.